god. Oh, the Rain of Vengeance getting so many people. Even coming in Cuba. Quick into the void prison as well. But Blackstorm is ready for it. He goes down and the Rain of Vengeance but it might not be enough. Core is on 50%. Mortis is getting CC'd.
A warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to DreamHack Winter 2015 here in Jönköping, Sweden. We are here live from the Elmia Exhibition and Convention Center for DreamHack All-Stars Winter Clash here for Heroes of the Storm, as we are about to get into day number 2 of what is sure to be, and already has been, a fantastic tournament here so far. We're gearing up for our decider matches here on day 2, and then from that point on, we will get into the semi-finals and then crown our champion, who will walk away with the trophy right there. Very much thank you for joining us here. My name is James Kylaris Carroll. On the desk with me is Kendrick Swish once again. And then we, of course, have Mr. Grubby and Todd along with us for the ride. Our Warcraft 3 legends. They did something in StarCraft 2 as well. As we now have quite the event to go on. We already had a fantastic day number 1. Let's check in with the brackets and see exactly what has gone on so far here during yesterday, as we already had 2 groups play out almost in their entirety. In Group A, we saw Team Dignitas was able to prevail overall, beating TCM and Team ROCCAT, which then moved ROCCAT into the deciders match for today. They're going to go up against mYi, who kept themselves alive down in the lower. And moving on to Group B, we do have quite the fiery group indeed, which went on well into the night, as we had Fnatic doing extremely well for themselves, moving on through into today's semi-finals already. From then on, we have Team Liquid, who are our 3-time DreamHack champions, trying to fight for survival here. They're going to go up against G2 once again, and after the dismantling that we saw of them in the first series, let's hope that G2 is able to stand tall against one of their nemesises in the scene. Of course, that looks like that, and then we can also move on to our semi-finals here, as we will have Team Dignitas going up against Fnatic as one of our semi-finals. And then we're still yet to decide our other semi. Actually, I believe that is incorrect now that I look at that. It will be Team Dignitas and Fnatic as first places going up against the second places from our decider matches. So just to kind of keep you informed on everything that is going on so far. Guys, on the desk here, how are you guys doing? It was a long day yesterday. How are you doing, Kendrick?
I'm doing extremely well, although, as you mentioned, it was a very long night. But we had some crazy games in return, so it was all worth it. And I'm feeling really happy and, very excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I'm all rested up from last night's trials and tribulations. It was actually really cool, lots of hype. Some really cool games we saw in the 6th and 7th match as well.
Yeah.
And I'm all just about ready and rested up again for my next dose of Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, stayed there until around 3:30 a.m. Casted a lot of good games. My passion is fully recharged for today, and I'm ready.
Good. I'm glad for that. I am glad for that. Surely, we're going to have some fantastic games throughout the semi-finals. We had, as Grutby mentioned, some amazing games towards the later part of yesterday, with Quacknix really making a name for himself. Let's just put that out there. Doing very, very good indeed. In fact, if you didn't tune in yesterday, we have a little bit of a teaser as to what went on down yesterday. Ready for you now. Breeze being Breeze. I didn't quite anticipate seeing all of that, but hey, he's a fiery little guy. He certainly knows how to turn it up when it gets going, and you know, rightfully so. With what we saw from Fnatic yesterday, them advancing forwards in Group B as well as they did, a really cool performance.
Yeah, someone should definitely make a Super Saiyan montage with that footage. I mean, that was just insane. Fnatic coming in with the closest ending I've ever seen in that tournament so far. And, you know, it takes a lot of skill, a lot of focus, a lot of communication to pull such a maneuver off.
Yeah, Breeze is he's a very passionate guy. Let's just say it that way. And I'm sure we're going to see more of this because Fnatic, they're in semifinals. If they win the whole tournament, I can totally see him spray us with champagne from the stage back there because it'd be going that crazy.
Yeah, so far they had pretty much the best moment of the tournament probably where, I mean, we've seen a lot of mosh pits, but here we saw a gust of wind pushing 5 people into a corner, a power slide through all 5 of them, mosh pitting them and then killing them. If you thought that's game over, it wasn't. It was a 5-man wipe, level 20 versus 18, and the level 18 team nearly won. But Fnatic's Quark Mix pushing with Falstad, pushing people away from the core, just made the difference. You should really watch those games. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was beautiful stuff. That teaser of what happened yesterday doesn't quite do it justice. So if you did miss yesterday's games, make sure to check those out in the past VODs. For now, we can take a look at the schedule to see what's going to be happening throughout the day. We have our 2 decider matches to start things off with G2 versus Liquid coming up later on. And then we have ROCCAT versus mYi here as our first match going down the line. And then from that point on, we have our semi-finals to be played out. Again, I believe it will be firsts versus seconds from each of the groups as the tournament structure goes along.
Very important to mention that all the matches are played on an accelerated schedule. Assuming we're going faster than the schedule is showing, we're going to be starting with the next matches pretty much as soon as possible.
Yeah, so the times that are outlined there are kind of rough guidelines as to what's going on. If yesterday is anything to go by, maybe we'll go way on into the night, but...
That was a decelerated schedule.
Yes. Someone put the brakes on and was like, let's slow this down just a little.
I'm not sure we can contain this much hype. Let's take it easy a little bit.
It was definitely some great games, though, overall throughout yesterday. One also thing to remind you of is that if you are a little bit newer to Heroes, or if you don't have him yet, yesterday we were kind of teasing the idea of giving you away Cho'Gall here, one of the newest heroes in Heroes of the Storm. Now, there's 2 methods that you can actually use to get him, and the first one is by hashtagging DreamHack Plays Heroes on Twitter, tweeting at us and talking about the tournament in general. Then you can be in with a chance to win a code for Cho'Gall. And then the second method is by tuning in today at 6 p.m. for the Grand Finals and making sure that your Battle.net account is attached to your Twitch account as well. And then you're guaranteed by at least by the very latest December the 4th to have Cho'Gall in your possession. And he's a very fun hero. 2 players playing 1 hero. Guys, your experiences with Cho'Gall? For me, I've played like 40 games of Cho'Gall, so I've been on the Cho'Gall hype train pretty hard.
Yeah, Cho'Gall is a really fun hero. You play it with 2 people on 1 hero. When you are Cho, you control the movement, and you have your own whole set of skill set of talents and like abilities, heroics. And then Gall is attached to you. He's the second head. He cannot do any movement, but he can empower you. He can cast his own spells, his own talent choices, his own heroics. So it's really cool, and it's a great way to like take a new player by the hand and bring them into Heroes, because the experienced player can play Cho, and the Gall one only has to shoot. He doesn't need to worry about his positioning or like the risks he's taking. That's all you.
Yeah, and also in terms of talents, there's a lot of interaction. For example, there are a lot of talents where the Gall player has to use a talent in order to unlock something that Cho can do. For example, at level 20, you can make Cho unstoppable. You know, very cool interactions that require a lot of communication, as you said. And it's going to be good. I mean, it can ruin friendships, or it can make them even better.
Yes. Yeah, I like the team play exception of having team play based hero with 2 person controlling 1 in a team play game. Like, that's definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, it's a fun hero for sure.
So are you the kind of Gall player that would take the nudge talent at level 16, where you push Cho a little bit
into the enemy team?
I have no comment on the match.
I guess we'll find out after the tournament, maybe.
I took that once and never again. It didn't go so well. I went the wrong direction. It was really, really fun. But for now, guys, we can get into what is to be our first decider match of the day. It's going to be Team ROCCAT going up against mYinsanity. And these 2 teams, mostly hailing from the German region here, have really kind of fought tooth and nail. They did play against one another in the previous games yesterday, and it didn't go quite as well for mYinsanity as they would have liked it to have. A lot of high hopes rest on mYinsanity's shoulders. A lot of people are touting them to be a strong team coming in here, Kendrick.
Yeah.
What do you think their chances are here against ROCCAT?
I think their chances are pretty good. I mean, mYinsanity is a team that consists of a lot of experienced players, but the team itself has been reformed. I mean, they used to be Team Spartanian, then a couple of roster changes. But overall, I really like their style personally.
Yes.
They have excelled as a very aggressive team, picking heroes like Sonya and Uther and Muradin over and over again to lock enemies in stuns. So if they can pull it off again, I mean, they did it already against ROCCAT in the first match. So let's see if they can repeat their success.
And overall, I think that mYinsanity here, with the kind of aggression that they've been exhibiting before, they're going up against a team that once again has been playing that kind of very sustainable, very defensive style. So we're going to see that clash of styles again between these two teams. Is that something that maybe mYinsanity has gone away and rethought, or do you think they're going to kind of stick to the same kind of thing here, Grubby?
I don't know. I'm thinking about like Team ROCCAT here.
Yes.
I see them kind of as a chameleon. Like they are the thinker type of team. They're gonna adapt themselves to the situation and try to counter what the opponent is doing. So even though they are known somewhat as a defensive team, they're willing to bring the pain to the opponent if they feel like that is going to work the best.
Yeah.
We saw that in their first game against mYinsanity, where they actually started being quite aggressive at first. So
that's a really good point that you actually bring up there. I mean, we've seen them run like triple warrior comps even still, but then use them in an aggressive manner, Todd. Things like Sonya and Tyrael in that triple warrior comp being very, very forthright with their decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we already talked a little bit about how it, as much as it's one of their strengths, it can also be a little bit of a weakness when you're predictable and you do a little bit too much of the same one thing. We also talked about a little bit earlier about how ROCCAT, they can adjust. If there's anybody in the scene that's got a lot of experience, that know from their StarCraft days that you need to study your opponents and you need to go into the match with some kind of a good plan to have a better chance at doing well, it's going to be them, with guys like Hazuops and Soccer who've been around forever. So the dynamic here going to this match, I feel like still is the same that what we talked about yesterday, where you have one team on one hand that's definitely has got some good momentum, like, you know, they've got this hype train of they are doing well. You know, Kendrick and Grubby thought they were going to do well already yesterday in the first match.
And they were wrong, weren't we?
Yeah.
Were you right?
Yeah, I said that ROCCAT, remember.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that part.
Thanks. I guess it doesn't happen very often. But yeah, no, ROCCAT, again, they've got so much experience, and dealing with this kind of situation, they're going to be able to do well a lot of the time. But now, it feels like, you know, it's like a rematch where the team that didn't do as well last time is maybe going to do better here in mYinsanity. So ROCCAT, they need to make sure they're on point here today.
Yeah. I spoke to them before. They seem to be feeling a bit more confident today about their position going up against ROCCAT.
mYinsanity.
mYinsanity, yes. I spoke to NeuroRock briefly as well. The thing is, we're down 2 teams now. We eliminated 2 teams yesterday. We've got 6 teams left overall. We're still looking to, in this moment of turmoil in the European scene, to crown a proper European champion right here, right now, because of all the changes that have gone on. Are these 2 teams, too, that could even excel that and take that kind of crown?
I mean, we've seen how strong mYinsanity was during the Fragmite Masters a couple of weeks ago. They went 3rd place, only losing to a couple of really strong other teams. But I think they definitely have what it takes, and the talent is there. They can just remain focused during the end of the game. I think that's where it kind of bugged them a little bit.
All right, well, we're getting into game number 1's draft now, nice and quick here, as we do have, it's going to be Tyrande and Tassadar banned out already, so not too many surprises here.
Yeah, we've seen these heroes being banned a lot. Well, Kel'Thas being picked first, ETC and Falstad. This is déjà vu, how they say in France.
You know what?
All over again.
Sleeping and dreams are to reflect on what happened and to see whether the decisions you made in that day are correct. And it looks like
I thought you were going to say that we're still sleeping, like thinking about yesterday's day, like it's a dream right now.
I said something similar this morning, actually, in a very similar vein. It's like, it was yesterday all a dream? It was that long? I didn't even know.
I actually mean, they really felt their decisions yesterday were good, and they're just sticking with the same drafting strategy here so far. Removing what used to be known as the auxiliary supports, Tyrande and Tassadar, but who are now very much almost independently capable to support a team. And they also offer a lot of vision and damage. They said yesterday in the interview, Toronto can do pretty much anything. She has damage, vision, she can build for support, burst. Those got removed. And then Kael'thas, ETC, Falstad as the choices.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool to see that that's exactly what Blizzard was trying to do with these so-called semi-supports, right? They wanted to make them viable with a certain build that they're able to fully sustain a team by themselves. So it's really nice to see these plans come to fruition here.
Yeah. Keep in mind the map's Dragonshire here. We've seen actually Dragonshire like in a lot of the series yesterday and gave us a lot of very entertaining games. But the control for these shrines, even thinking prior to those big 5-on-5 team fights, is going to be very important. So you're going to want to take strong heroes in general. You can't rely on something that's late game orientated.
Well, Zagara is a little bit more of a less aggressive pick from mYi's side of things, do you think?
It's quite aggressive early game.
Early game.
Actually, when they changed the scaling, they kept Zagara's ability to be strong early game. I believe she gets a 3% bonus per level instead of 4%. And all the other percentages, that's embedded in her level 1. The Hydralisk, very strong to zone an opponent out from the lane to prevent them from getting experience. So Falstad and Zagara are really strong picks on Dragonshire in particular.
Yesterday we saw, actually it was on this map, a Butcher come out to counter a Shen that was on the lane. Now that Zagara has picked from mYi, ROCCAT, they might already be thinking about who they are going to get to try and counter on a lane which might be usually top or bottom.
I think that's an excellent point there, Todd. I mean, Zagara is without a doubt one of the strongest solo laners that we have, especially in Dragonshire. And there we go, Tyrael is out of the race. That is actually one of the few heroes that can hold his own somehow, but he has to be careful not to use that much mana because, you know, killing pre-tumors is not always a very easy thing to do.
Tyrael was one of mYi's choice tanks, warriors, I should say, on Dragonshire in their previous series. And it did, you know, it did quite a bit for them, but it didn't quite get them the win there in the end. I don't think they feel as confident on Dragonshire as on the map. So they're going to ban out the Jaina, and ROCCAT now has themselves 2 picks to go.
So with Jaina and Kael'thas not available to Team ROCCAT and already having Falstad, they probably need at least one more assassin. It could be a specialist like Sylvanas who offers that kind of damage, but we're also looking at Valla and Raynor here as possible picks.
Guys, it's very early in the day still. Do we see a special pick here? I'm going to ask every game and every series.
Is Muradin special?
No, it's not, Grubby.
It's quite a solid pick here. Are they going to go with Kharazim already? I mean, there are no bans anymore. My Insanity is probably not going to take Kharazim, so you could leave that until the very end.
Yeah.
Could even be Brightwing maybe, but it's going to be Kharazim, which could mean that they're trying to hide their 5th pick.
Absolutely, it would be a great opportunity. Or at least you can keep it, like not necessarily to hide, also can be to have a reactionary pick to what mYi is going to pick now, because they're still
Let's not forget that Kharazim is one of those shady picks that we have had in the recent weeks. It could also be a melee assassin Kharazim, of course, to maybe hide their plans or thwart the enemy's plans a little bit.
Could this have to be 2 warriors, which would end up being something like Sonya if it was mYi to try and just launch themselves in, and anything else from there?
Sonya, of course, gets a little bit countered by ETC and Muradin already.
Definitely.
It's still possible, and there's also still Johanna. Johanna as a solo tank can work quite well. You could put Sylvanas behind it to have insane pushing power with 1 point of front line.
Yeah, because actually ETC we shouldn't overlook. We've seen some crazy mosh pits this tournament already. In terms of being able to cancel it, I guess there's already quite a bit of potential here on mYi's composition. So.
Yeah, each one has at least one method to cancel it. Uther 2 if he goes Divine Storm with Divine Hurricane at level 20.
Hey, I would love to see that, though. Brings back the Gula memories.
Yeah, very good memories. Got reduced in radius a little bit, but it's still fun.
Divine Storm!
It's still fun to play for sure. mYi with 10 seconds almost left on the clock now. And they have 1 more pick available. Do they go for something crazy?
It could be Sonya, it could even be Raynor against 2 tanks already, and another melee.
Shred up Muradin. Johanna's not too bad as a solo, but Leoric will get picked up. That's a very old school warrior combination.
Yeah. And one that is not really a guaranteed pick anymore these days. I mean, Leoric has seen a little bit of a decline here with other heroes like ETC and Muradin still being very strong and rising even.
This makes it quite an easy pick, I think, for Team ROCCAT. Like, it's Raynor or something they've practiced extensively, which is really different and almost unpredictable. But like Raynor seems to be the obvious one here.
They need more damage, that's for sure. They've got 2 warriors, a healer and Falstad. which is, I guess, a consistent damage dealer. But since he goes Mighty Gust, that's going to be one heroic missing that can do a lot of damage. So unless they want to go for something like Nazeebo or Hammer, like
unless they have confidence in Red X going for something like a melee assassin. It was a little bit choice over like the Chen when he was going for the Butcher or something like that, but maybe he feels a lot of comfort on this map on a melee assassin.
As much as I would love Sergeant Hammer, and it's even good on Dragonshire, I'm a little worried picking her into Leoric. Like if he goes for a Wraith Walk, sneaky, and then he entombs you, there's no way out.
The Zagara as well. I mean, during the laning phase, if Sergeant Hammer at any point of time gets matched against the Zagara, she can use the Hunter Killer and her Roaches to just wreck the Sergeant Hammer, who's a very immobile hero. And
so solid picks all around. Reynor. Why is he great against My Insanity? Well, they have more than one warrior. He's got Giant Killer at level 13, which does a percentage-based damage on people's hit points. And of course, Johanna Leoric having high hit points as a warrior. He's a great damage dealer there from the backline.
Yeah, he's going to come in very handy. Even like if ETC lands a good mosh pit, I mean, we all know what happens. Everybody dies. And Falstad and ETC are together. Just saying. After what we saw yesterday, a Mighty Gust into mosh pits. Maybe it's time again.
Do you think the majority of the damage here for ROCCAT is relatively safe? They've got a great front line. They're going to be separated up for the most part from like Chain Bomb becoming a potential here. Is this a really strong lineup for ROCCAT?
Yeah, I really like ROCCAT's team here. I mean, anytime you have Reynor, you've got a better level 20 almost than the other teams.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about it, because it means that you don't have to make something happen. Like, it's very difficult to miss or to hit a 20-second window where you can win, or a 5-second window. With Reynor, it's not really there. You can drag it out, you can miss your chances to win. As long as you get to level 20, you've got a great game going, and it's a solid team they got there.
I got to ask you for predictions, guys. Got to ask you who you're going to... I'm not going to say it. Who you're going to give, favor here in this coming match. Obviously, My Insanity was defeated in the tournament previously by ROCCAT. Is this something that affects you, Kendrick? Let's go down the line here.
I have to say, as to put it in your words, Kalaris, I give sway to ROCCAT here. I mean, I have to agree with Grubby here. Also, what I don't like about My Insanity's lineup against ROCCAT's lineup that much is that they don't really have a lot of hard engage. They have Leoric and Johanna, who are rather slow-moving warriors. So yeah, I think ROCCAT, man.
I'm sorry, man, but I'm going to have to disagree with you again here.
Okay.
I think this time My Insanity will correct their mistakes, and they're going to do much better and win.
Grubby, quick.
I think I really like Team ROCCAT's team here. My Insanity has a strong mid-game, though.
All right, well, let's get into it. Game number 1 of day 2 here for DreamHack Winter 2015 as Kendrick and Grubby take it away.
Thanks, Kalaris. Here on the left side, we've got Team ROCCAT reared in the blue colors. Stock on ETC, Hasselhoffs on Falstad, Grand Paquette on Karazim. We've got Red X on Reynor, the diverse assassin from Team ROCCAT, and finally Sport Billy on Murden there. On the other side, in the red team, we've got Team My Insanity, Crosby on Kel'Thas, Wooby on Uther, Leoric being played by Nurok, and then in the top lane we've got Darkmok on Zagara, who showed such a great thrall yesterday, and Bloomby on Johanna.
Yeah, Grubby, I couldn't be more excited and I couldn't be happier about the game. Not only do we have 2 teams with German participation, it's also my personal favorite map. Dragonshire, there's always action going on, and it's such a dynamic map. People tend to split themselves more than on other maps when they have to take 2 shrines at the same time. It's just such a cool map.
Yeah, at this moment our thoughts go out to our observer, Reinforce, who is going to have to catch all the action. One of the hardest maps actually to observe, because there's constantly action in the top, middle, and the bottom at the same time. Really difficult to get coordinated with your team as well in Hero League when you're playing with strangers.
Yeah. It is really the case. Sometimes, people tend to do their own thing a little bit more, and that could spell disaster when your team is actually trying to get something done together.
I have to say, I love doing my own thing.
Yeah.
In the
So you're one of those guys.
It feels really good to just let my allies do the objective while I get mass amounts of XP in the lane. It feels selfish, at the same time it's really helping.
Yeah, that is actually a very fair point. Let's talk about the level 1 talents here a little bit. I don't think we see anything too out of the ordinary. Maybe a little thing to highlight here is the ETC build that is getting more and more dominant almost. It's the prog rock build where you try to accumulate regeneration globes to make your guitar solo a lot stronger. And it heals for a crazy amount. We saw it yesterday, didn't we, Grubby?
Yeah, we certainly did, Kendrick Swish. It's quite insane. It also shows stylistic differences here by Team ROCCAT and other teams. Usually aggressive teams, for example, Team YL, which we saw at BlizzCon in the Heroes of the Storm World Championship, they really favored the double power slide build at level 1 and 4. But Team ROCCAT, a team that doesn't mind going to the late game, that has heroes who are invested in the late game, like Falstad and Reynor with seasoned marksmen, damage increase talent, it's great to actually be able to support your allies to be less aggressive, not jumping in as much, and just healing them a lot in the mid game.
Yeah, and it's actually what a warrior should be able to do. I mean, healing is a very important term where you actually have to protect your weaker allies in the backline. Of course, you should also engage and maybe zone the enemy. So it's pretty much the two main things that a warrior has to do in Heroes of the Storm.
It's really cool looking at the kit of a warrior, like initiation, absorbing damage, peeling. There's so many ways that you can play them. That's why it's my favorite class, actually. I know you love support.
You know, warrior is actually my second favorite.
Cool.
So there we go. Now we have level 4 talents unlocked for both teams. Actually, both teams hitting level 5. It's still a very even battle. One shrine each. So there we go. And nothing too out in the ordinary. I would have loved to see a Gathering Power Kelthas maybe we saw G2 using yesterday to great effect, even with a Nova combined. Man, that was good times.
Usually I think it's the best to go Gathering Power when you've got a hero on your team that can really make kills. Oftentimes when you get early game kills in Heroes of the Storm, you're giving up something else, like less emphasis on the objective or less minion waste. So, they get Sokka already, wow. He didn't have his third guy there, and he was actually 2 versus 3 and took a bit too much.
There we go, another kill. I mean, these teams are not messing around, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
1-1, Zagara, yeah.
It's 1-for-1 then. Both teams can feel like they got their pound of flesh.
Yeah, and it's really good to see a little bit of action going on. It was quite the contrary yesterday with Fnatic fighting Team Liquid, for instance. There was a very long-paced game, a very slow game, but here, now we have Falstad flying in, Sport Billy and Hazops trying to take down Bloomby in a combined effort. Is it going to be enough, though? It is, because the Dwarf Toss is enough to body block her. Wonderfully executed here, GG.
Yeah, GG, well done. Good move by Team ROCCAT, of course. Have to be slightly critical on Bloomby there from Team mYi Insanity. He could have known that Falstad would fly to him. Falstad just went for... He had 5%, he went to heal. Where is he going to come back? If you are at risk if he flies in, and you would die if he does, you have to assume that he would.
Yeah. And this actually gives, you know, a good feeling for Team ROCCAT, but overall, Team mYi Insanity not really doing too shabby in terms of overall global XP here. Now let's take a look at the level 7 talent here. Look at Leoric. We see the ASEAN renewal. Yeah,
that's it's quite rare. You can use it when he's dead to come back to life a little bit quicker, but that's a really bad way to use it. It has a cooldown of 60 seconds, and he can heal like 20% of his life. So he just becomes more of a tank role, and that could mean that he might want to be the one that actually attacks the backline, attacking Reynor or Falstad, making sure that he takes that damage, rather than one of his squishies, whereas Johanna will be protecting the backline.
Here we go, now Darkmog in a little bit of trouble. Zagara runs away, but it is not enough. She's a slow little Zerg Queen without her creep, and that actually is very good for mYi Insanity here. Or actually very bad for mYi Insanity, excuse me. But one thing oh, never mind, Radek's in a lot of trouble. These teams are so aggressive, another kill. And mYi Insanity still, you know, they're not letting their guard down. In fact, they're saying, we can turn this around and kill your guys as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Zagara is a very attractive gank target because all she has is bonus movement speed. She has no mobility abilities, let's say, where she can like barrel roll away. So that is a really difficult escape for her every time she meets Falstad. But really smart by mYi Insanity that then they attack a different point.
Look at Whoopi. He is actually the MVP of that takedown. I mean, Crosby missed his gravity labs. The Dwarf Toss really well executed there, but Whoopi, he anticipated that and moved Uther along the Meridian's path to cut his flight path. And wonderful.
Here, can he Wraith walk away on time? Nurok is taking a lot of damage, but he will get taken out as well. Takedowns on both sides apiece. Quite a action-packed game. Gravity Labs again.
Look at that. He is trying to play mind games here with his opponent, using Radiant Dash to get away, but wonderfully executed. The Mighty Gust saves him, and Grampakete can actually use the Divine Palm. Great play.
Level 10, just in time. Nurok with a random Entombed there, hoping to catch someone. Level 10 on both sides. Got Divine Shield and Devouring Maul still up against 3 heroics for Team ROCCAT.
Now, one thing I would like to add to ASEAN Renewal on the Leoric, you can actually use it while you're in your Undying form. So even if it comes off cooldown while you're dead, you can actually use it to sort of speed up your regeneration process. And that can be quite cool during teamfights when Leoric all of a sudden comes back a lot sooner than you would have expected.
Yeah, exactly. If you do need to come back a few seconds quicker, I do believe the effect is like half now when you're Undying of any healing. So it will be quite an urgent need if you need to come back quicker. Normally you'll see it when they're alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at the battle momentum talent here. Muradin going for more thunderclaps, favoring it over the double Stormbolt hit, and also Zagara going for battle momentum.
Yeah.
Zagara is already a very mana-intensive hero.
Oh yeah.
So this is creating a better power spike for every fight, but a worse laning phase all throughout the game.
Yeah, and what some people who are not very familiar with Zagara don't know is that when you use your basic attacks and you have battle momentum, it will also decrease the cooldown of your creep tumor. So you can
really?
Yes.
Are you sure? It says basic abilities.
But I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I've played a lot of Zagara.
Let's say the jury is out. I thought it says abilities, but, well, we'll try to tell you later. But but at the very least, it definitely reduces Devouring Maw cooldown.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very crucial one because its cooldown is rather long compared to other heroics abilities like Phoenix, for instance, which is, of course, a lot sooner back ready.
And level 12 apiece here as we have this 1v1 going on here in the top lane. Sport Billy against Darkmork. Sport Billy being very conservative with his mana here. He's clearing a few creep tumors, but you can see he's healthy in the mana department. And misses once again.
We saw Entomb being used to great use actually yesterday when he was trying to sort of make players very uncomfortable, especially a Tassadar who can't use his dimensional shift to get out of it. So Entomb seeing a lot of play in this tournament here at DreamHack.
Consistently the 3v3 here. Phoenix gets used. Sokka still very healthy. Falstad comes in as well. Mosh pit. And he's blowing away the Kel'Thas.
Wow, that was a really good flight here by Hazuops, joining the team at the right time. But still, both teams not really committing fully. Nice pull back here. Both teams, they want to get 13. They really want to have the advantage over the other team, or at least not be behind so far. So we can understand the hesitation here coming out from Team ROCCAT and mYi a little bit.
Almost not enough hesitation coming out of Team ROCCAT there. They used a lot of high-value heroics at the same time, unable to get a kill, and a lot of their damage actually went on Leoric. That's one of the problems when you get, Falstad gets taken out in the middle.
Yeah.
But that's one of the problems when you get a really good mosh pit, is that whoever is closest is usually the warrior, and you need to try not to attack that guy.
Exactly. Now the Gravity Lapse and the Phoenix and the Entomb. That's a wonderful combo. The Divine Palm is enough to save him, though. The Rainer is still on the retreat. Radix needs to run. So does Sake, even though he's a mighty, mighty cow. But he can take all that damage, and the upper numbers, the superior numbers from mYi right now. Wow, that was close.
In the meantime, Muradin and Zagara continue their fight. Of course, Muradin gets a nice advantage here, getting... Oh no, he locks himself out!
Oh my God. That also causes the Hunter kill and all the other minions to abandon the Queen. Oh my Lord. Man. Maybe he should have aimed it a little bit more to the left, but then of course he wouldn't really be sure if it hits the Muradin at all. So caught between a rock and a hard place here, that's Zagara.
Wooby once again trying to kill Sport Billy there. Sport Billy waiting for the jump, does get it. Manages to get away. Nuruk with the narrow escape.
Yeah, Team ROCCAT, they are playing a very tense game right now. You know, they're not getting, impressed by mYi's pressure that they normally put up. They're putting the pressure up themselves here quite a bit.
Look at this, double giant killer from Falstad, Rainer, and also that Thunder Strike from Muradin makes him an excellent dueler. Anytime his Thunderclap hits a single target, it doesn't do 170 damage. Actually, the numbers are changed. Never mind. Anyway, it does triple the amount of damage that it normally would. Of course, Zagara can make sure this. She's always next to her own roachlings to prevent that effect.
That's a very good point. It actually makes Zagara a very bad target to use some Thunderclap, but of course you want to still use it on her to slow her movement speed down. Once again, talking about Zagara and Muradin, they are best buddies here, but now Muradin getting a little bit pushed aside here by Bloomby. He's doing a lot of good job here at peeling. Hazuops trying to get the Dragon Knight, but of course, with the rest of mYi lurking around, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Both teams, you actually see the zoomed out camera very nicely here. They're trying to contest while Nuruk is still on bottom, getting the shrine control here back for his team.
So you have a number of options when one of the heroes goes to steal your shrine after a 5v5 at the middle with pressure on the opponent of taking the Dragon Knight. You can either go and try and catch that guy while Nuruk has left already, or you can immediately engage the enemy team in a 5 versus 4.
Yeah. That's exactly right, and now you can actually see a sort of mirrored state of the map here right now. We can see pressure on the top lane and the bottom lane as well. Sport Billy here getting a heal in the very last seconds, getting out of here, but he had to use his avatar, of course, which is a huge cooldown and a very important teamfight tool. So if mYi gets 16 right now and force a team fight. I'm talking about a team fight here. Nurhook goes down once more, and they're probably going to get that fort here with the Hyperion, but the action is not going to get cancelled here. Nice blast shield, stunning Sport Billy, and as we said, he didn't have the avatar ready.
Yeah, exactly. The avatar gives a bonus 500 life to keep Murden alive. He was forced to use that one already. We saw the benediction Hammer of Justice there coming out of Uther. The first one missed because the Dwarf launch made him unstoppable, Murden, but the second one hit, and then Blessed Shield was used as well to seal the deal. Now we've already reached level 16 without one, let's say, proper 5v5 team fight, and still we have more kills than we've had in an entire game yesterday sometimes. 6 versus 5 already.
Grandpaquette, man, nerves of steel. He didn't move even though he saw the gravity lapse, but now we have the Dragon Knight coming in here. Grandpaquette, he couldn't prevent that from happening, and this is mYi's time to shine. Hazov's being chased here by 2 Mutalisks at the same time. Crosby now swinging his mighty axe and shooting his fire breath towards the enemy buildings, taking that one down. Nice little thing here. Of course, this map is all about securing the Dragon Knight and push together, or sometimes even split push.
Yeah, and now the Dragon Knight is going to the bottom. More fort damage has been done by the single Dragon Knight already than has been done by either team in the entire game. It does double damage against buildings, and the way that they were able to get this is that Wubby used Divine Shield on Crosby to get that Dragon Knight uninterruptedly taken.
Now Nurhook once again in a little bit of a pinch here, but gets a nice heal. Holy Radiance and Holy Light used by Wubby to save him a little bit more. Leoric, he's not the tankiest of warriors. He has a lot of self-sustain, but no real damage mitigation. So he always has to mind his positioning here. But Crosby's still in the Dragon Knight, now pushed away though. The Dragon Knight, by the way, Grubby, unlike the Garden Terror, is not the greatest asset in a team fight. It's not that strong. It's more about sieging structures, right?
Yeah, exactly. It has a lot of hit points. It has pretty decent damage, but if you use it in a standard 5v5 team fight, it may sometimes be worse than the hero that's in it, or maybe even often.
Yeah.
Like, it's very tanky, but it may not have the same tools that a hero would have.
And if your team actually gets confronted in a team fight while you are in the Dragon Knight, for instance, you have to use the punt. I think that's the most important thing, to sort of balance out the odds and kick one of the priority targets, or a warrior, for instance, or a healer, away from their teammates.
Yeah, exactly. That is probably its highest value in a team fight. Whereas Garden Terror, of course, can do constant polymorphing of enemy heroes.
Yeah. So now we have the Bruiser camp fighting the Siege Giant camp, and ROCCAT and mYi facing each other here once more in that bottom lane. The fort is still in relatively good condition, but that's about to change here as mYi is unleashing a lot of sieging potential here. Hazov's on the Falstad and Soke, they can't really do much because they're outnumbered, and still the Siege Giants are forced to be reckoned with, not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, Nurhook and Sport Billy having a warrior clash up in top.
Yeah, and mYi is taking an experience lead here because of the forts that they killed. But Team ROCCAT still has the late game with Falstad and Raynor, being able to pick up Nexus Frenzy, having Giant Killer, having Seasoned Marksman, and doing so much damage. It's going to be really hard for Johanna and for Leoric to stand still in that kind of withering fire. So Team ROCCAT can play it really easily. Like, they don't need to do anything except defend their keeps.
Yeah, and it's usually a very comfortable spot to be in when you know that time is a little bit more on your side. Whereas Team mYi, they actually may have the pressure to end the game at a certain point before they get outshined by the late game talents that come with ROCCAT.
And that means that this is going to be the key moment in the game, Kendrick, because Dragon Knight is coming up. Ideally, Team ROCCAT would have liked to see that a little bit later, because it's going to be hard to fight with mYi right now. And now would be an okay fight, but in just a little bit, mYi is going to get their Storm Tier talent at level 20.
Yeah. And mYi, they know about this, of course. They are trying to soak as much as humanly possible to be ready for that big engagement with the Dragon Knight. Nurhook conquering the top shrine here. In the meanwhile, we see Darkmog approaching the bottom south shrine here, clearing waves, and there we go, Storm Tier talents. What are we gonna see? We actually see a really cool talent on Leoric. We see Spectral Leech. We haven't seen that in a very long time.
It's really powerful against Murden because he gets Avatar, bonus HP. Oh, Nurhook getting taken out. This is exactly what Team ROCCAT needs. Getting 40% of a hero level, even as Leoric will come back quicker, even as the Dragon Knight gets taken. that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
The Dragon Knight was going to mine Sanity no matter what. But
Yeah.
now they actually have a chance to get level 20.
Exactly. You mentioned it. The pressure on the lanes was so advanced for my Insanity that ROCCAT couldn't really move outside their base. So as you said, the Dragon Knight was a given anyway. They just tried to capitalize as much as they could and to close the gap in experience here. Now Bloomby on the move, but you can really see everything is being used to keep in at bay. The Hyperion going out here. Paquette even fighting at the forefront, and Bloomby has to retreat for now. And you can see Sock is blitz soaking, and Sportbilly even joining the fray now. But of course the Stormball is not going to do anything while he's in Wraithwalk. Nurok still in a lot of pressure here, getting healed by Whoopi. Moshpit coming down, it's crazy, interrupted by the Zagara devouring one. Sportbilly now in trouble. Does he have the Avatar left? I think he does.
Yeah, he's already in the Avatar. Divine Palm will be missing. Crosby trying to almost proc it or try and finish off Sportbilly. There we go with the Stone Form, healing Merdin almost up to full again with the Fountain at will. Do they have enough what it takes to take down this keep? It's already at 30%.
It's a tough call to make. You don't, of course, want to expose yourselves. You always want to keep track of your heroic abilities, cooldowns as well. And you can really see that almost anything is on cooldown here. On the other hand, we see still a Divine Palm, still a Mighty Gust available because of the short cooldown timers. So my Insanity, they're taking it slow. They say, okay, we can come back at another moment. And we don't want to risk anything here right now.
Yeah, exactly. They did some good damage, but now since level 20 has been reached, they need to be a little bit more careful. Want to look at those talents again. Spectral Leech, as we said, great against the tanks, doing bonus damage and healing. But look at that, Raynor recognizing that he does not have an escape, that if he ever gets caught in an entomb, he could be in big trouble. Actually takes Bolt of the Storm over Nexus Frenzy. Falstad doesn't have the same problems because he's got that power roll, even has the fly maybe. So he is the one that goes for Nexus Frenzy. And look at Karazim.
Karazim, it's a crazy build. We see the Divine Repose, and it is such a cool talent for even mess with your opponent's mind, you know? If you don't miss it or if you land it intentionally on the wrong target and it doesn't go off, you have a 5-second cooldown to cast another instance of Divine Palm.
And now you would think that pro gamers would never take a talent that has embedded in it the capacity to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because perfection is your first goal. But it actually opens up a new way to play Divine Palm. You can cast it on someone to prevent them from taking damage in the next 3 seconds, because the opponent's team will not want to finish it and actually proc that Divine Palm.
Yeah.
But you can do that every 5 seconds. So if you just rotate out in the last 2 seconds of that cooldown and save yourself in that way, you can have a lot of proxy Divine Shields, as it were, just to make sure that your allies aren't dying. So it gets a whole new play style. And that's what Paquette is trying to exploit here.
We've seen that talent being chosen by Bakery during the European Road to BlizzCon Champions as well.
Exactly.
So it's a really cool tool. Nurok once again on his own trying to sort of stall the enemies. But Nurok, is it going to be a deja vu from yesterday, dying all by himself? And thank God it's a Leoric, but still, I'm not sure if you want to give free kills like that, especially as the death timers are getting longer and as the Dragon Knights are getting stronger.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit of bonus experience points. The level's not too impactful, but the map control you lose to a degree can be a problem. However, it has been said by some avid Leoric players that dying at level 20 plus, it's free scouting.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal unless the opponent immediately captures the objective right afterwards. And look at this, he has monitored the movement of the opponent and nothing really bad happened.
Yeah, that's a good point here. I think King Caffeine here from Cloud9 could actually hold a whole speech about it.
Yeah.
He's of course a very good expert on that hero, but it's a very cool thing that I want to talk about again about the Raynor Storm talent here. You mentioned it, Bolt of the Storm, and it really shows how adaptive the pro players are. Look at that now. We see a Dragon battle here once again about the Shrine. Sportbilly has to use everything he's got, but Hazwab's joining the fray now, helping his Dwarven buddy out. Is it going to be enough? Crosby using the Arcane Barrier to get away, but now we have stuck in Moshpit. It is finally time. Look at that, the counter with the Dragon Maw, with the Devouring Maw is not enough though. 2 people dead on my Insanity's side. What a great battle here from Team ROCCAT.
Oh man, they used so much on Muradin. Kael'thas actually doing a Bolt of the Storm into Muradin, who's still at Avatar, who's still at Stone Form, who's still at Hardened Shield, and he used all of that, and they used all their cooldowns on it, the Bolt, so Kael'thas lacked an escape. Sokka was near enough, and he said, thank you very much, I'll get a 4-man mosh pit. Interrupted too late, and 2 deaths, and finally the Dragon Knight, for the first time in this game, going to Team ROCCAT, who are actually leading 10-5 in kills, and are finally getting the forts back to reach experience equality.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? If the game goes like that, I would trade 3 early night Dragon Knights against 1 late game Dragon Knight all day, every day. Because
Exactly.
Sport Billy here feels a lot more powerful with his empowered level 20 allies behind him. And you can see these keeps, they're not really proving to be an obstacle here anymore. In fact, Bloomby taking a lot of damage here with double Giant Killer, shredding the Johanna armor to pieces.
Yeah, exactly. One mistake I often see players take, though, is going the Dragon Knight first into the keep, so its attack speed gets slowed.
Yeah.
And then he hits twice as slow on a keep, even though he does like 1200 damage a hit on buildings. It's really insane. So it's usually better if like ETC could be taking the first hit.
Yeah.
It's just a small thing. Of course, it feels very safe. He's got the highest health pool, and it's a little bit safer that way. But yeah, anyway, great. They got 1 keep for Team ROCCAT, right?
Yeah.
And mYi is going to feel increasingly much pressure from those catapults at the bottom lane, which are pushing out.
Yeah, we've seen it quite often, how much of a difference these catapults can actually make. I mean, you always have to keep an eye on that lane that is being bolstered by the enemy catapults. I mean, if you don't guard against them well, and you even have a Siege Giant camp coming along, they can wreak havoc in your core even.
Yeah, exactly. The longer you are preoccupied somewhere else, the more that can be a problem. For example, let's say in 1 minute, all of them have a fight at the top lane over Bruiser camp, and 4 people die on each side. That's a bigger problem for mYi, because there will not be anyone to defend the bottom camp there, you know, the Siege Giant, the catapults, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now we see a little bit of a damage numbers here, of course. Rainer reigning supreme here, followed by Falset, of course. Both heroes doing a lot of damage with their basic attacks. On the other side, we see Zagara doing actually a really good job, followed by Kel'Thas, of course. The Kel'Thas chain bombs are actually not really a big factor, or haven't been a really big factor here in that game.
Yeah, they've really been... It's really dangerous even to place chain bombs, because it means he'll be in Sokka's ETC's range. And he's being put on the back foot a lot. That's why he is unable to get like maximum value out of it. The fights happen quite rapidly, don't you think?
Yeah, it really is a thing that you have to be considered. I mean, back in the days when Kel'Thas used to be played a little bit differently, laying the focus all on his Flame Strike, he could have a very safe distance and cast these devastating spells from a very right area. But now we see a Siege going for mYi. Of course, they want to get a keep at best, but I don't think they can succeed in here, because the defenses coming from Team ROCCAT is just looking super crisp.
Such a threat here from Sokka's ETC, able to jump on with a mosh pit, and they're so careful of that. I was very curious to see actually Nurok's positioning. Did you see that? He was staying kind of mounted up to the top right of mYi's flank.
Yeah.
Also to prevent flanks coming from the top, but also to be like having his movement a little bit hidden and then come out with the surprise entomb. I'm curious to see how that will happen next time there's really a fight.
The unseen entomb is the deadliest, as they say. You know, if you come from the side, you come from the flank, cutting people off even, that is actually a very cool thing, especially if you have heroes like Zagara and Kel'Thas who can follow up on that locked-in target from a safe distance.
Exactly. So let's see what happens as this game is going into the 25-minute mark. Level 23 on both sides. A Dragon Knight at this point could be lethal for either side. And traps is the name of the game. We see traps attempt coming from both teams.
Now, that's really part of the game in Heroes of the Storm, when both teams can't really get or unlock any more talent gates. That means, of course, it's more about, you know, laying siege and laying ambushes here to the enemy team, because you want to get that advantage of taking down a hero, being in the upper numbers, and then get a most important map objective here.
Everyone is starting to come here to the top lane. It's Nurok and Sport Billy who are trying to go for that shrine. But as the action is picking up, Hammer of Justice gets dodged.
Once again, a very preemptive avatar for Sport Billy. Of course, he doesn't want to risk to even be, you know, dying or whatever, but I'm not sure if it would have actually been necessary, because we have the Divine Palm and even the Repose talent here at level 20, so maybe the avatar was popped a little bit too early. Grandpa Katie must have said something to Sport Billy here.
Yeah, it's a big loss. Of course, he has battle momentum. That's one advantage when you have that over-piercing vault. Yeah. It will come back a little bit quicker when you auto-attack. If you look at that 60 seconds...
That is true.
You would like to get some attacks on minions, but he's actually playing the flanking role, accepting that he doesn't have it. Those tumors providing a lot of vision for mYi. But look in the meantime, catapults, about 4 or so shooting the core, 2% core damage. That's how strong catapults are right now.
You can see the shield has been destroyed, actually, and you mentioned it, Grubby, these catapults, eventually, if Team ROCCAT manages to stall the game here and now, with the shield being dropped on the core of mYi, they're actually feeling very good right now.
Yeah, eventually, in theory, the game will be won by Team ROCCAT like that. Look at that, 84%. The catapults beat the minion wave. This is insane.
Not even
every shot is 5%.
And mYi Sandy, they don't have heroes with global range like Paul said. They could just move in.
They could
32.
just finish it now, yeah.
I mean, that's a big mistake here by mYi Sandy, and I can't believe that none of the team members actually made the call here. Guys, we need to retreat. The catapults are hammering at the door, and now we see the Divine Palm actually being triggered incredibly in the blink. Radx here with lightning reflexes coming back from the dead. But what's happening here?
Oh, I thought they were going to take the Dragon Knight, but Leoric Nurok took the bottom shrine here. We've got 32%. The catapults have been cleared for now. So mYi Sanity has a chance. If they can ace Team ROCCAT here, that is their best chance to win. They're moving in aggressively. They have to. You know what? Team ROCCAT, they should be pulling back.
They have to. mYi Sanity is so far back in terms of core health. They have to look for an engagement, and they have to keep ROCCAT busy. Otherwise, as we can see here, ROCCAT might be trying to do a flank maneuver, and with Falstad being able to fly in at any moment. We've seen it yesterday with the Abathur copy even, but of course that's not going to happen this time. But the constant threat, the sword swinging above the head of mYi Sanity, that's a very dangerous thing.
Yep, 40% core HP got removed again from the shield. The shield is worth 50%. So almost all of it got removed once again, and it's softened up. It's being outpushed now by mYi Sanity, but they need to keep defending the bottom side of the map.
And eventually that's going to prove to be very, a very dangerous and stressful place to be in. I mean, Bloomby here trying his best, but oh my god, the bullseye emboldened penetrating round here, dealing so much damage with the Giant Killer. Now we see Kel'Thas unleashing the fire magic that he has available, but Mighty Gust here, a very good tool to keep the enemies at bay. It's just a lovely, wonderful heroic ability that has risen in popularity over the last couple of months.
Nurok is in the middle. He's taking the Dragon Knight. In the meantime, a 5 versus 4 fight will happen. Look at the Dragon Knight. He's going for the middle. It's going to be a base race. A 5 versus 4 pursuit here. Team ROCCAT is trying to finish from the bottom side, but this keep is weak.
And all of a sudden, they were in the exact same situation as mYi Sandy. What's going to be stronger, a single Dragon Knight or 5 angry players pushing in towards the base? Now, the Devouring Maw coming out. I think Nurok, what are they doing? They need to defend as well. Now, Bloomby, he's in trouble. Hazop's pushing everybody back. They don't want the defenders here. The Dragon Knight is going to be faster, though. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. The Dragon Knight is so strong at this level.
Nurok MVP!
GG! From the jaws of defeat, they clenched victory. mYi Sanity, what a unexpected victory there.
What a way to start this day already, Grubby. I thought we would have seen enough crazy endings yesterday, so they would give us maybe a little bit of a breather, but they're not having any of it.
Unbelievable. The minions did the most for Team ROCCAT here, the catapults. And all they had to do, and this is in the end the deadly thought, all we have to do is finish it off. But they made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really consider the threat that was Nurok, and instead of retreating, I mean, they had the Mighty Gust. They could disengage and go back to the base and everything would be okay.
There was many things ROCCAT could have done. Take only the top shrine, take only the bottom shrine.
Exactly.
Have someone to interrupt the middle. But not that.
They got ahead of, they got ahead of themselves here. They wanted to finish the game at any cost, and it fired back greatly.
That was a crazy end to that one. I did not expect it to go that way. That was very, very fiery. But there were a lot of options in those moments, and it couldn't be all too easy to just launch yourself at a core, I guess, that is that low. But even them allowing those catapults to do the amount of damage that they did, that is a critical error usually, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, sure. That was kind of like a unexpected bonus for Team ROCCAT, right?
Yeah.
Well, after the games we saw yesterday, of course, we were going to start the day with a bang today. I love how, like, after the game ends, he says GG on both sides of the stage, but, like, we got a player shot from, like, ROCCAT, and in their head, it was probably more like BG.
and I mean, to happen to ROCCAT, we considered them to be one of the most experienced and cool-headed teams in the scene that we have here at DreamHack. That is quite a bummer, actually.
Yeah, looking at some of the final moments of game number 1 here, and being a 5-on-4 here, it could think all too easy to try and just, well, okay, we're going to be fine here and kill them off. But you can see the desperation from them. Hasu trying to fly in at such low health, realizing that they are really up against it.
I think maybe they wasted a little bit too much time here, the ROCCATs. If they hadn't tried to fight all and just went for the core, I think they would have been able to maybe get it. But, like, you know, in the heat of the moment, and also, like, they were heading for their opponent's core while they had a full hit points, full shield 1 against their opponents, like, what, 34%? So they were probably pretty confident it was going to work out. But that Dragon Knight, you guys even mentioned it in the midst of the cast. it's very important that you attack structures with it and not heroes. Well,
Yeah.
I guess they definitely took that advice to heart here.
It's not too often you end up in a situation like that where it's just Dragon Knight over the other side. You've got to keep wall there to safeguard your core, and then he still tears through that anyway because he is so strong in those prolonged games.
But the keep was 10% life.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
the keep had been full life,
Yeah.
it would take even longer to kill a keep than a core.
Because it shoots,
of the
yeah.
attack speed
Attack speed
slow.
reduction, yeah.
Even though core has like way more life.
Yeah.
But it was that low. He pushed through it really easily, and then 7% damage per hit on the core.
It's a big deal.
Like 22 hits and it's done, and he attacks like once a second. So
Wow.
during that time, they were moving through the enemy team, full life, devouring more on 2 people. It was too much.
Yeah. Very, very strong. Little move there out of them to be able to kind of solidify themselves. They said they were confident going into
yeah.
today.
They looked confident,
I don't
really
think that was
comfortable.
Especially in
quite
Nurok.
what they expected.
I mean, it's so hard to see that Team ROCCAT, they were doing so well. They had the late game power with Falstad, with Raynor, and then they lose it because of one bad decision, one unclearness. Really frustrating.
Yeah, I think 2 things to really kind of say is that Nurok, as much as we, joke about them feeling comfortable and confident or whatever, actually that was a very decisive move for him to just say, all right, time to go through the middle alone, you guys can defend 4, and so the decision making there was very clever. But then I kind of want to come back to the smaller, finer details of that game and look at Falstad and Raynor. The Storm Challenge that they chose, you don't often see Nexus Frenzy and then Blink chosen respectively across those 2 positions, so they were really favoring a bit more of a defensive position there for the Raynor, at least.
If he had like Epic Mount, Falstad would have had more control over the shrines.
Yes.
And more ability to attack the core with impunity anytime that the minions were taking it down to 32% already.
Yeah.
In theory, if he moved in, because it was only Zagara defending, if he moved in as 32% was reached, he finishes it in like 4 hits with all his abilities.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sick if he had Epic Mount. On the other hand, Raynor, if he is confident that Karazim is going to save him with Divine Pull or Peaceful Repose, he can take Nexus Frenzy and do a lot more in fights. And it's also a way of being safer because you get 20% bonus attack range, going from like 6.5 to 7.8 attack range. You're almost outside of Entomb range all the time whenever you shoot Leoric.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. But on the other side, of course, ROCCAT was taking precautionary measures themselves, both tanks having imposing presence, knowing that that auto-attack game was going to be so important. So really cool decisions here from either side. We're going to